I am thrilled to have on the show today Judy Blundell, who is a New York Times best-selling author. Her novel, What I Saw and How I Lied, won the 2008 National Book Award for Young People's Literature with over 100 books. I mean, so cool. And that now, the high season, is out. It's her first novel for adults. I am so excited about this book, Judy, and I can't wait to hear more. Judy lives on Long Island with her husband and daughter. I am thrilled to have her on the show today. Welcome to Reading with Robin, Judy.
Thank you, Robin. I'm just so thrilled to be here.
I'm so thrilled I made it through that. This book, I mean, you know, the audience should know that Judy and I chatted a little before we started the interview, but so the gushing began as I got on the phone with you because this book arrived and notes from your fabulous team, and just when people know what you're going to like, it's almost like I didn't want to start it because I knew how much I'd like it, and then I didn't want to not have it to look forward to. Does that make sense?
Oh, I know. I do that with books too. Yeah.
Right? And then one of the really cool things is when I tell somebody to read it, because if they haven't read it and, you know, it's just out, and, well, it's just out for the purposes of the show. And I'm like, you are in for such a treat. This is like that summer delicious. It's like everything I love about certainly a book you can read anytime, but we're in the summer reading season now. It's upon us. And so it's just like the most delicious, icy, yet warm, gooey, fabulous treat. And you can eat the book too.
Yes, there's chocolate right in the middle.
I think, right? I know. That's what that was all over the place. That's what my books look like. By the time I'm finished with the book, it does look like I've devoured it. And that's the sign of a really great book.
That's the sign of a loved book. Like
it is.
Stains and spaghetti stains, yeah.
Everything bent and, you know, ring marks and my coffee cup, wherever that's been.
Sunscreen.
Oh, yeah. Well, not yet, but yes, and that is very important. We should have a little PSA with this book.
Right.
Don't forget your sunscreen. So is that so the book takes place out east on Long Island, just like a sea of people reading this book. How would that look?
That would look good to me.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be a great shot, actually. Right?
I've never seen anyone reading, like a kid even, reading one of my books, ever. Like on the subway or, you know, just walking around. You know, always or an airport. That'll be a moment for me if that ever happens.
It's never, all of those books you've written, never?
Never, no.
Oh, Judy. Okay.
Well, it's sad, isn't it?
Well, with so many books, maybe you're just respectful of people's space, and you don't do what I do, which is like literally stare down someone that's reading a book as if nobody's ever read a book ever. I'm like, you're reading a book.
Yes, because you used to see people reading on planes all the time, and now all you see is screens.
I know. You know? It's very disappointing. It's very exciting, though, when it is an actual book, and I hope that you pass many people reading this. I mean, you can't miss it. It's this gorgeous sky blue, you know, ocean blue cover.
Mm-hmm.
And
the cover is gorgeous.
It is so gorgeous. Yeah. Well, I'm actually envisioning a scene. If I can pull this off, you know, we're here in Rhode Island, the ocean state, so we have plenty of beaches. And I think I might just pull off a stunt at the beach with this book. I'm like talking and thinking at the same time. And so this is your first adult novel, and I'm sure you've been asked this a million times already, but we've just met, so I don't know the answer. But why now? Why, you know, what is it about this book and the story you wanted to tell?
Why now? I thought of the initial, the first cell of the book. What started when my daughter was a baby, and now she's 17. So it took a while, and I wrote, a bunch of books in between. I had a pretty thriving career as a children's book writer for middle grade and YA.
Sure.
But I did have this idea, and whenever I had a little time off, I would scribble. You know, I kept a notebook and just kept scribbling away. And it just grew over the years. And then I remember one summer I had about 6 weeks where I had time, and I wrote a big chunk of it then. So that's how I worked on it, just in the margins of my professional life.
Sure.
And then I had submitted something to an editor who I loved, and it was a book I wanted to write, I thought, and the book was accepted upon proposal, and I went to bed that night, and I woke up in the morning thinking, I really have to write the adult book.
Wow. Yeah, it just was nagging at you, I guess.
This is the one that I'm in love with. This is the idea I'm in love with. And if I don't write the one I'm in love with, it's not going to, I just want to feel better about it. So it took me a while to kind of get the financial room to do that, but that was my goal.
Sure. Oh.
And so I took a year off from writing for kids, and I finished the book.
And
that was
so
a long
happy.
answer to your question.
So happy you did. No, well, it makes sense. So it's sort of a practical answer and a creative one all at the same time. And
yeah,
so,
I think it was that idea, when you get an idea, and then it becomes more complex as you work on it. And then you just want to, your job is to listen to whatever that story is as it grows and get it down somehow.
And did you? It's so funny. And I was reading somewhere in the press materials about underlining witty sayings that I was doing that before I read anything. I love to say, like, oh, I love the way this sounds. And I love, and like I said, the book's quite marked up. And it's just clever, and it's charming, and it just has all of those elements of being swept away over a summer. Really should be read in a hammock with lemonade, as hokey as that sounds. That's just like the most word drink.
Doesn't sound hokey. It sounds
delicious.
Doesn't
it sound delicious? Or like a drink. It's like the full experience. It's like theater on a page. It's so excited, like I said, to share this with people. So you wanted to get the story down. You have fabulous cast of characters. We start with our main characters, but talk about. There's never any spoilers on Reading with Robin, certainly, but I guess certainly start with Ruthie.
Well, the main premise and what kicks off the book is the fact that Ruthie and she has an almost ex-husband. They have what they like to think of as a good divorce until the third person sort of.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until it's not.
Yeah, until it gets real when he meets someone who solves every problem they ever had in their marriage. So in order to afford this house in this lovely seaside community of Orient on the North Fork of Long Island, they have to rent it out in the summer, and that bump it allows them to afford the house and afford to live out there. And so they give away the house every summer, and it's wonderfully lucky to be able to do that in a certain way, and then in another sense, it's depressing because it's summer and the house is perfect, and they have to give it up for 3 months. And whereas Ruthie thinks she's lucky, her husband and her daughter, not so much.
Definitely not on the same page. So is that the nugget that you started with? Like when you first got the idea for this book, were you thinking that at the center would be this house and it would have to be given away in order to be kept?
Yes. I would say the very first nugget was the marriage, the concept of two people who get married and they're each other's best friends. And then it just doesn't work. And the good divorce falls apart. And then when I put that together with this other thread that I had seen, my husband and I lived in Montauk, which is, well, now it's a Hampton. Back then it really wasn't. But
I know, right?
Right?
Changed a lot, yes.
Yeah. We lived there year-round, and we knew people who in the summer would rent out their houses and go live in a trailer. We knew one family that went to a campground, or they'd sort of crowd in with relatives.
Wow.
So when I put that thread together with this thread and this moment I had in the backyard of a house in Martha's Vineyard that we went to one year, and I noticed this shed that I had never noticed before, and I walked up and I looked in the window, and there was just the whole life of this family was crammed into this shed, almost up to the ceiling. And I thought, I think that might have been the moment that I connected those two stories, and I just thought, the story became a novel because I thought, oh, that's perfect for this dilemma of this woman. She's going to lose everything in one summer.
Isn't that so cool to be at a party, and then were you, distracted for the rest of the night? Like, wait, I need a notebook. Somebody help. And they had rented the house, I guess, on the vineyard, and then that was the
they rented out their house. No, I was
yeah.
staying in the house. They had rented it to us.
No, that's what I mean, right, and they had and they had
and just
think
about
there.
Your house is like packing up your house. You sort of curate it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for me, too.
Yeah, but that idea of, right, what stays, what goes, what do you want to leave with the people who are going to be renting it, and and all of that stuff. And then you have this great backstory of this artist, the woman, Adeline, who comes to, is it Adeline or Adeline?
Yeah,
Adeline Clay, who comes to rent the house, thus solving sort of a problem, and her backstory, and then the whole art world and the museum, and it's, I love your storytelling, and I was reading about the connection to the museum, and also just anybody that's ever been on a board or done any of this thankless museum kind of work.
Yeah, I was on a library board for
how was that?
It was delightful because it was a wonderful board, and it wasn't about social standing. It was just like we're devoting our time to every month just to keep things going, and I mean it is slightly different. But
how refreshing.
Board dynamics are, school boards can be brutal.
Oh my God! Yes.
So I think that it's a wonderful microcosm, which novelists are always looking for, to work out, to examine a kind of careless use of power and privilege in this hothouse atmosphere of a board.
Hot house, hot heads, all of it. It's something that you will absolutely recognize, and just in such charming and funny, anecdotal phrasing all through. And I'm talking to Judy Blundell. Her brand new book, The High Season, is out. It is her debut novel, and you can go to her website at judyblundellbooks.com and find her happily on Instagram at Judy Blundell Books as well. We've gone through some of those characters, and talk about some of the younger characters in the book, the kids, and
sure. There's a
sneaky little girl with an Instagram account.
Right, exactly. Doe is a character who joined the novel quite late in my head when I was writing it. Sometimes this happens with a writer where a character just suddenly strolls in and starts talking, and you just sort of follow them. And I wanted to present the three ages of women. Ruthie's in middle age, Doe is a millennial, and Jem, Ruthie's daughter, is 15 going on 16. And the effect of wealth and these summer visitors on these three women. And for Doe, she's a millennial. She's kind of that self-invented character, like a Gatsby character, where she just keeps her past a secret. And so she has this Instagram account. She's a photographer, and she is really good at sneaking into fancy parties in the Hamptons. And she kind of leaps over the wall of a billionaire's family and gets involved with the family and this particular kind of restless, beautiful daughter.
The whole notion of sort of marrying the charm and the slow pace of that part of the island to this Instagram account, or just the way, just the way we live now, and being able to maneuver like that. And just sort of blend in, or have nobody really question, or just to be so crafty on her part, and to have such a mission. And then what happens, of course, because people become real, and so that's always an interesting thing to explore, like what's going to happen and how is she going to get out of this, or what do you get away with. And then Adeline's stepson is a really interesting character, Lucas. I love your characters. I mean, they're so they're memorable, and this is one of those books that I know I'll be sharing for a long time, and really like chuckling and thinking about some of these stories and like the storylines and thinking, oh yeah, that was really good, because he proposes a very interesting scenario to Ruthie.
I think he represents the kind of person who has every gift bestowed on him in a certain way, is the gift of beauty and the gift of wealth, and yet he's empty because he hasn't been loved, really. I mean, he's really easy to dislike, but everybody has an engine, everybody has a wound, and I don't want to, as you say, we don't give spoilers.
No spoilers,
yeah.
but it's so hard not to talk about some of these things more in depth. It's just one of those books, like I was saying to you. I'm reading Leave Me Alone. That's that kind of a book, and it's Judy Blundell's The High Season. It's a gorgeous blue cover. You cannot miss it, with a young girl at the beach. We don't know. Do we know who that is?
I guess people will identify that as Ruthie, I guess.
We got Ruthie on the
back.
She does have a gorgeous back. Is it Lark? Is it Doe? She does have a gorgeous back. And she is just, you just cheer for her, watching the sort of, I guess, what defines her and where she's thrown into and what she really has to consider when making all of these choices. She's just incredibly likable, and absolutely root for her happy ending. Now, these salted oatmeal cookies, is the recipe available?
That's one of the few actually factual things in the book.
Oh, that's funny. So
yeah, there's this wonderful story.
I mean, don't give it to me, though, really, because I don't need another good recipe, but I just wanted to know if it existed.
No, I don't have the recipe.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah. But I did eat them.
Oh, you did?
During the final polish when I was out in Orient for a month.
Oh, how perfect.
I got to enjoy them. So I put them in the book. Yeah,
well, they made the book even more delicious, if that's possible. So you spent a month there? Is that what you were saying?
I did for research. I rented a house for a month in the off-season and a month in high season, so I could really get the flavor of the town. And Orient is a particular kind of town. It's as described in the book, where a lot of the kind of the cultural elite of New York in publishing and art and architecture, they come out there, but it's not like the Hamptons where they want to reproduce their crazy, frenetic life.
They just really want to relax.
They just really want to relax and be chill. So there was this thing that I called the Orient recoil, because when I'd say, I'm setting the book in Orient, they'd lean back. Totally lovely people, very welcoming. They just don't want people to write about Orient.
Well, I was going to say, how is that received? And do you have a book event planned there? What is your touring schedule?
I have some North Fork events planned that will be announced soon.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And to find those out, you can go to judyblundellbooks.com, and again on Instagram at judyblundellbooks. Well, I love taking the ferry across from Connecticut to Orient.
I do that often.
It's such a great way to go across. It really, somehow it's always on time, and whenever I get to the ferry a little early, I make the earlier one.
We do that too. Yeah.
Right, they're always waving you on, like, we knew you'd make it to this earlier boat. Yeah, it's such a great way to travel and skip a real lot of traffic.
Yes, and I think that I grew up on going out to Long Island, so I to have the sense memory of those summers and the light and the air, and then all those ferry trips were wonderful inspiration for this book, because the blue water and the light and the air, it just to live out there must be pretty incredible, and to lose it all in a summer, to lose everything you love, this husband that you're still in love with, and this estrangement from your daughter, and to lose your house and then lose your job.
What else could you do to this poor woman?
What else could I do to this poor woman? But I think that sort of catastrophe can have a certain really comic kind of antic edge if you're really going kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose. What else is there to do? You're going to reinvent, or you're going to...
You're going to reinvent, you're going to risk, you're going to do something really stupid maybe to get everything back, but that's what makes the novel, right? That's what makes you turn the pages.
so exciting. It's all exactly what I love about sinking into a novel, and it's the high season. And again, JudyBlundellBooks.com, so you can find out where she'll be. So while you were out there, did people realize you were writing about them or writing with them?
It's a small town.
I know, right. I think that is so cool. Well, it's always flattering, and I think that when a town is such a central character in a book, or a house too. I was thinking about some of the books that I've enjoyed, so that were house focused. Or,
I always like a house book. Yeah.
Right. What do you, off the top of your head, know any of your favorites? Not to put you on the spot.
You just put me on the spot.
I never do that. You can email me later. You can email me later. Some of my favorites are Bittersweet, Miranda Beverly Whittemore's book, Bittersweet, and Courtney Sullivan's Maine.
Oh, yeah, Courtney Sullivan. She's wonderful.
Isn't she? Yeah. And I have a bunch just because I was actually really thinking about this. But whenever that comes up, I always think, you know what, I'm really drawn to those stories that are in every corner of a house, and especially the ones that are really old and have just generations of secrets are some of my absolute favorites.
And how you can really love a house.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it can represent something that, you can try to hold on to it so much. But, I had to leave a house that I loved. So a lot of that emotion is in the high season.
Well, you can feel it. You can absolutely feel that connection to, I forget I think it was Kathleen McCleary. I can't believe I'm even remembering this, and I can't remember the title of the book, but I think she burns a house down in the book instead of letting someone else have it.
Wow.
I have to remember.
Yeah.
Or I'm making this up. But I think that was a premise for one of her books, and I think I've gotten her name right. That was totally off the top of my head. So I'll have to check that out, because otherwise I'll have listeners say, wait, that is not true. And also I should say, go to the Reading with Robin Facebook page. We are giving away copies. So
how lovely of you.
Isn't that lovely? Well, it's lovely of your publisher, and I'm happy to be the conduit to it. The book will flow. Go to Reading with Robin on Facebook, and we will have several copies of The High Season by Judy Blundell. This is a gift to give to yourself. This is, oh my God, if you're staying at someone's house or you're going to lunch and you want to bring a great gift, bring a book, because they won't. Yeah, bring a book, because they probably won't have it. It's brand new, so you can feel very comfortable picking up a copy and going, look, I know you didn't read this yet, unless of course you had the advanced copy, in which case, oops. I love to bring a book to somebody. I mean, I can think of so many people who I know will absolutely love this book, and I will be sharing it everywhere, and I'm already sharing it in paperback next year in my head. So not to rush the seasons, but thank you so much for being on. If I keep talking about this book, I'm only going to give away stuff. So full-on Reading with Robin alert. Love this book. Do not miss The High Season by Judy Blundell.
Robin. That's so great. It's just great to talk to someone who gets the same kind of deep pleasure out of books. It's wonderful.
Such a joy. It is really something to celebrate and take time for yourself and just enjoy, which is why I tell people, if they're not liking a book, what are you waiting for? Put it down.
Put it down. There's more.
Put it down and back away slowly. Judy, thank you so much. Such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Robin. It was great fun.